Elias wore a black tuxedo that fit him perfectly. His hair was combed back carefully, and his strong jaw was tight with tension. But something was wrong. He wasn't smiling. He hadn't smiled all night. That's because someone from his past had just walked in. She wore a red satin dress. By her side was a little girl. Elias was shaking hands with a senator when he saw her. Valeria? It had been 2 years since he last saw her, and somehow she looked even stronger now. Before we start today's story, comment below what you're from and hit subscribe if you haven't already. You won't want to miss what's next. Valeria's red dress didn't look desperate. It made her look confident, like she owned the room. She wasn't the shy cleaning lady Elias had once fired without even saying goodbye. She was calm, elegant, and holding the hand of a toddler. The little girl made Elias stop breathing for a moment. She had his hair, his golden skin, his quietness, and her eyes, those amber eyes. They were his. Elias's mind raced back to 2 years ago. His penthouse apartment, a spilled glass of wine, a kiss against the kitchen counter, quiet moans into his mouth, one decision that changed everything. Then a check. Silence. A door closing, and Valeria disappearing. Now here she was again. The voice of the auctioneer faded away like static. Elias stepped down from the stage like a man who couldn't control himself. He moved through the crowd of rich guests, ignoring people who greeted him, his eyes locked on Valeria. She stood near a tree, sipping champagne. The little girl held her hand tightly, her big eyes watching the room. She had soft curls just like Elias's mother's hair. Elias finally reached them. His voice was rough. Valeria. She turned slowly, like she had prepared for this moment. "So, you remember my name?" she said calmly, but her eyes were sharp. Elias's gaze dropped to the child and then back to her. "Is she?" Valeria didn't flinch. "Yours?" she asked with a small smile. "You tell me." The little girl peeked from behind her mom's dress, staring at him like he was a mystery. Elias knelt down, softening his voice. "Hi," he said gently. "What's your name?" Valeria answered for her. "Livia." The name hit Elias like a memory. Valeria added softly, "I picked it before I realized she had your face." How could Valeria be so calm while his heart felt like it was racing out of his chest? He had spent his life controlling boardrooms and powerful people, but this woman and child made him feel small. Valeria wasn't here to hurt him. She was here simply to exist. Guests whispered around them. "Isn't that Valeria? Wasn't she a cleaner? Does that little girl?" Valeria didn't care. She turned and walked away. Elias followed her through the crowd until they stopped in a hallway near the kitchen. "I didn't know," Elias started. "You left." Valeria spun around, her laugh bitter. "Left? You fired me, like I was garbage, no reason, no warning." "I thought I was protecting you from scandal," Elias whispered. "For me? No, you were protecting yourself," she said firmly. "And in doing so, you abandoned your child." That hit Elias harder than any slap could. He remembered sitting alone in his apartment after their night together, remembered staring at the check on his desk. He could have called her. He could have stopped her, but he didn't. A tiny voice broke the heavy silence. "Mama." Livia wandered over and looked at her mom, then at Elias. "Is he the ghost?" Valeria knelt down and brushed a curl behind her daughter's ear. "Yes, baby," she whispered. "He used to be, but not anymore." Livia's eyes held something unexpected. Hope. Elias watched them walk away, Valeria's back straight, Livia skipping beside her. Two red coats moved through a sea of black tuxedos. Elias stood frozen, full of words but with no right to say any of them. Back in the ballroom, everything looked the same. The chandelier sparkled, violins played, people sipped champagne. But all Elias saw were Livia's amber eyes, his daughter's eyes, and Valeria's stare, not angry but heavy with hurt. His assistant came over. "Sir, the ambassador wants a photo with you." "Tell him I'm not available," Elias said. He had faced billion-dollar deals and world leaders. Yet tonight, one woman and a child had left him feeling like dust. Outside, Valeria sat by a fountain. Livia curled in her lap, holding a cookie someone had given her. Valeria stroked her hair, her own eyes shiny with tears. She hadn't come to start drama. She wasn't here for pity. She was here for something Elias had always refused her: acknowledgement. "Do you want to go home, sweetheart?" Valeria whispered. "Is the ghost still here?" Livia asked. Valeria smiled softly. "He's not a ghost anymore, baby. He's just confused." Hours later, Elias stood in his office, staring at the city lights. His bow tie was loose, his scotch glass empty. "Livia," he whispered. The name didn't sound strange. It fit. He remembered Valeria's soft humming as she cleaned his apartment, the shy way she'd smile when he complimented her once on how neatly she folded his shirts. She had always been more than he allowed himself to see. And now she had given him a daughter. At 1:14 a.m., he left his penthouse. Still wearing his tuxedo pants and shirt, he drove straight to Valeria's Brooklyn apartment, an address he'd known for 2 years but never used. He sat in his car for hours, staring at the building. But he didn't knock. Deep down, he wasn't ready to face who he had been. 2 years ago, Valeria had left his apartment holding an envelope. Inside was a week's pay and a cold note that said, "Effective immediately." She didn't cry in front of anyone. But at home, she locked herself in the bathroom holding a pregnancy test with 2 blue lines. "I won't need him," she whispered. She raised Livia alone, one diaper at a time, one day at a time, in a tiny rented studio apartment. The next afternoon, Elias found Valeria again, this time at a park where families were holding a toy drive. Valeria was helping unload boxes while Livia drew with chalk. Elias didn't approach right away. He just watched. She laughed easily. She looked happy, not like a woman waiting for anyone. When she finally saw him, she didn't stop working. "If you're here to make a speech," she said, "save it. I'm here because I need to talk to you." "To her," Elias replied. She turned to face him, arms crossed. "You fired me like I was nothing. Why do you think you get to see her now?" "I don't think I deserve it," Elias said quietly. "I'm just here. That's all I can be right now." Livia ran over, her hands dusty with chalk. "Hi again," she said shyly. Elias knelt down. "Hi again." She showed him her drawing. 3 stick figures. "That's Mama. That's me. That's you." Elias felt like crying. He looked up at Valeria. "She thinks I'm the ghost, doesn't she?" "She used to," Valeria said softly. "Not anymore." "And you?" Elias asked. Valeria hesitated. "I don't need a ghost. I need a man who won't disappear." He looked different now. Still polished, still powerful, but not untouchable. He looked guilty. Maybe that was a start. Valeria remembered the way he'd held her that night, like she was his only softness. She had hated herself for remembering. And yet, here he was. She picked Livia up and turned away. "You want to talk? Tomorrow. No cameras. No donors. My rules." Elias nodded. "Name the place." "You already know the address," she said, walking away. Livia waved. Elias watched them disappear. This time he promised himself he wouldn't just wait outside. The city sparkled with lights far below, but the tall penthouse still had its lights on. That wasn't strange. Valeria often worked late during holiday weeks, making sure everything was perfectly clean before the year ended. Elias liked that. It gave him a reason to see her one last time before Christmas. But tonight was different. He walked in and stopped. She was in the kitchen, steam rising around her. Her red uniform dress clung to her from the warmth. The radio played an old jazz song. A half-full glass of red wine sat by the sink. Valeria turned and gasped when she saw him. She dropped the cleaning cloth and the wine glass. The glass shattered on the floor. "Oh no. I'm so sorry," she said, kneeling quickly to clean it up. "Leave it," Elias said. His voice was low. Not angry, just serious. She froze, still kneeling, looking up at him. "I didn't mean to, Valeria," he said softly. Just her name. It made her stop talking. The room was so quiet, they could hear the heater humming and cars passing outside. Elias stepped closer. She didn't move. She was still on the floor, but her back was straight, proud. "You're not working tonight," he said gently. "It's Christmas Eve." "I didn't want to be home," she said after a pause. "Why?" She looked down. "Home feels more empty than this." Those words hit him hard. Elias looked at the spilled wine. "Get up," he said. She stood slowly. Now they were so close they could feel each other's breath. Elias reached out and moved a strand of her hair away from her face. His thumb brushed her cheek. She didn't pull away. "Why do you let me see you like this?" he whispered. "Because you don't pretend I'm invisible," Valeria said. Those words broke something inside him. He touched her waist. She stayed still, not afraid. His breath shook. "I shouldn't," he murmured. "Then don't," she whispered. But neither of them moved away. He kissed her. The kiss wasn't soft. It was deep, hungry, like 2 years of feelings had been trapped inside and now burst out all at once. His hand slid up her back, holding her like he was afraid she would disappear. Her fingers grabbed his shirt, pulling him closer. Their kiss was full of everything they hadn't said before. She made a soft sound against his neck, and he nearly lost control. They didn't even make it to the bedroom. Valeria sat on the cold marble counter, and Elias stood between her knees, pulling her close. He kissed her neck, and she tilted her head to let him. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, resting his forehead on hers. "No," she said. That was all he needed. They gave in to each other completely. Their world became only their kisses, their touches, their heavy breaths. They crossed a line they could never go back from. Afterward, Elias held her. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Valeria leaned against his chest, her fingers tracing his collarbone. "This doesn't change anything, does it?" she whispered. He didn't answer right away. "It should," she said, pulling away to find her dress. "But it won't." "Valeria, don't make promises you won't keep," she said softly. She wasn't angry, just sad. She picked up her shoes and walked barefoot out of the kitchen. Elias sat on the counter, stunned. His shirt was open, his tie gone, his pants half-zipped. He was a powerful man, but in that moment he felt like nothing because of a woman who had finally seen him as just a man. The front door closed behind her. Silence filled the room. The next morning, sunlight crept across the marble floor. Valeria stood in the kitchen, dressed neatly in her uniform again. Her hair was tied back, her shoes on. She looked calm, but her hands trembled as she cleaned the counter that was already spotless. She could still feel his hands on her, his kiss, his breath. The door opened. She didn't turn. Elias was back in his sharp gray suit and navy tie, looking every bit the powerful man again. His face was cold. No sign of the man who had whispered her name hours ago. "Valeria." She straightened her back. "Sir." He hated that word now. "I'll have Julian review your schedule. You don't need to handle the penthouse anymore." She turned slowly. "Why?" "It's not personal," he lied. "Of course not," she said. "Nothing last night was." He said nothing. That silence hurt her more than any words could. He placed a folder on the counter. Inside was a check, a termination letter, and a paper saying she couldn't talk about what happened. No note, no explanation. "This will cover 3 months of pay," he said, "and there's a letter of reference if you need it." She stared at the folder like it was a coffin. "You're firing me because I let you inside me?" "No," he said too quickly. This isn't punishment." "Then what is it?" He said nothing. He couldn't. Valeria picked up the folder. She also picked up her pride. Then she left the apartment she had cleaned hundreds of times. But this time, she wasn't the cleaner. She was a woman who had given herself to someone who couldn't even look her in the eye. She didn't cry in the elevator. Not yet. Back at her tiny apartment, she stood barefoot in the bathroom, gripping the sink. She held a pregnancy test. 2 lines. Positive. She didn't scream. She didn't break down. She slid down the wall to the cold floor, clutching the test. Of course it would be now, she whispered. She had no man, no job, no plan. But she had a choice. She chose life. In his penthouse, Elias poured himself a drink. He stared at a shirt Valeria had ironed perfectly last week. He should have run after her. He should have apologized. Instead, he poured more whiskey. Powerful men didn't beg. They didn't cry. They didn't say, "I'm sorry I made you feel like nothing." So, Elias stayed silent. He acted normal. He went to work, gave speeches, signed deals, and smiled for cameras. But everyone noticed something was different. His assistant, his driver, even the doorman. Elias had changed. One night, drunk, Elias opened the folder with the check and letter. It was supposed to protect him, but all it did was remind him of what he had lost. At that same time, Valeria slept on her old couch with one hand on her belly. Elias lay awake in his expensive bed, staring at the ceiling. Same city, same night, same silence. A third test confirmed it. Valeria was pregnant with Elias Warwick's baby. She stood in her small apartment, morning light shining on her face, holding the truth. There was no joy yet, just realization. She whispered to the baby inside her, "You are not a mistake, you're mine. I'll love you, even if he never knows." She wrote a plan. Move to a cheaper place, sell her fancy shoes, cancel her phone plan, get 2 jobs. She worked at a medical center by day and cleaned rental apartments at night. No more marble counters, no more penthouse views. But she found peace knowing her child would never feel invisible like she once had. Elias tried to forget her. He gave speeches, started new projects, and even donated millions to charity. But her absence haunted him. One night, he looked up her address, the one he swore he'd never use, and drove there. Valeria lived in a small brick building behind a laundromat. Elias parked across the street and waited. Lights turned on. He saw her shadow moving inside. She was singing softly. He froze. His hand was on the car door, ready to get out, but fear held him back. What if she didn't want him anymore? What if she deserved better than him? He sat there for 40 minutes, then drove away. 6 weeks in, Valeria's morning sickness got worse, but she still worked every day. Neighbors gave her baby clothes, and she smiled and thanked them. She found happiness in small things, like folding little shirts or writing letters to her baby, whom she called Bean. "Bean," she wrote one night, "you came from a moment that broke me, but you will be the reason I stay strong." Elias came back 2 more times. He stood outside her building once, his finger hovering over the buzzer. But then he remembered her face that day in the penthouse, how she walked away proud and silent. He turned and left again. He didn't know how to say sorry when money wasn't enough. Back home, Elias wrote a letter. "Valeria, there's not a day I don't think of you, of what I did, of what I should have said. I saw you. I wanted to protect you, but I did everything wrong. If you read this, please just tell me you're okay." He sealed the letter but never sent it. It stayed in his desk drawer. 4 months later, Valeria felt the baby kick for the first time. She was drinking soup when it happened. She gasped and touched her belly, tears streaming down her face. "You're real," she whispered. "You're here with me." For the first time, her tears weren't from sadness, but hope. Valeria slept on her couch, hand on her growing belly. Elias sat awake in his big penthouse, holding a letter he'd never mail. 2 people once connected, now apart because of fear and pride. Months later, at a fancy charity event, Elias's world stopped. Across the room, he saw Valeria holding a little girl's hand. She was about 2 years old, with Elias's same amber eyes. Elias walked toward them, his heart pounding. Valeria saw him coming. Her hand tightened around her daughter's, but her face softened just a little. "You're still here," she said. "I didn't want to leave again," Elias said softly, "not without asking the only question that matters." He knelt down, pride gone. "What's your name, sweetheart?" he asked the girl. She tilted her head. "Livia," Valeria answered for her. The little girl looked at Elias with wise eyes like she already knew who he was. Elias's heart ached. He couldn't speak. He could only look at her. The same eyes, the same face. "She's mine," he whispered, voice shaking. Valeria didn't say yes or no. She just looked at her daughter, then back at him. "You stayed silent for 2 years," she said quietly. "Don't expect a simple yes now." Elias slowly reached out his hand, not to Valeria, but to Livia. The little girl looked at Elias, stopped for a moment, and then put her tiny hand in his. It felt like a spark, a special connection between them. Something unspoken passed in that touch. "Hi," Elias said softly. I'm sorry I wasn't here." The little girl, Livia, tilted her head. "Are you my daddy?" Valeria, her mom, gasped. Elias looked straight at her and said, "Yes, if your mom lets me be." Valeria led Elias and Livia to a quiet room in the building. It was an empty lounge with gold-trimmed windows and soft velvet curtains. She sat down on the edge of a couch while Livia climbed into her lap. Elias stood near the fireplace, unsure if he was allowed to sit down. "You didn't even ask if I was okay," Valeria said finally. "Not back then. I thought about you every single day, but you never reached out." "I wanted to," Elias whispered. "I tried," Valeria said, her voice shaking. "But you didn't knock on my door." He closed his eyes. "No, I didn't." "I raised her alone, Elias," Valeria said. "Every doctor's visit, every fever, every night she cried for someone she didn't even know, I was there, alone." "I don't know how to fix that," he admitted. "You can't," Valeria said. "You don't get to make it up. You just decide what you're going to do now." Elias finally sat across from her. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a worn piece of paper. The edges were torn and the ink had faded. He slid it across the table. "This is a letter I wrote but never sent," he said. "It stayed in my drawer because I was a coward." Valeria took the letter and read every word. Her eyes didn't cry, but her jaw tightened. Her lips trembled. "Why now?" she whispered. "Because I saw her," Elias said softly. "I saw her and I saw myself, and suddenly silence didn't feel safe anymore." Livia yawned. "Mama, I'm sleepy." "We'll go soon, baby," Valeria said. Elias leaned forward. "Can I carry her to the car?" Valeria hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Just this once." Elias gently lifted Livia into his arms. She curled against his chest like she had been there 100 times before. His heart nearly broke, not from her weight, but from the moment itself. He didn't realize how much he needed this feeling until now. Valeria opened the car door. Elias placed Livia inside and carefully buckled her seatbelt. "Where do we go from here?" he asked softly. "You show up," Valeria replied. "You don't disappear." "I won't," Elias promised. "Then we'll see," Valeria said. She didn't smile, but she didn't slam the door either. She drove away. Elias stood in the cold, but for the first time in 2 years, he didn't feel empty. He felt hopeful. Valeria hadn't planned on answering Elias's call. When she saw his name on her phone, she stared at it like it might burn her fingers. But Livia was sitting on the floor coloring, and somehow that gave Valeria strength. "Hi," she said quietly, picking up the call. "Thank you for letting me hold her," Elias said. "I haven't stopped thinking about it." "That's what happens when they're real, Elias," Valeria said softly. "They live in you whether you're ready or not." There was a pause. Would you come to the penthouse, just to talk?" Elias asked. "You don't get to hide behind those tall windows anymore," she said firmly. "I'm not hiding. I need you to see who I am now." "1 hour," Valeria said. "That's all you get." She walked into the penthouse like it was a museum filled with memories. The kitchen, the marble counters, the big island, it was all the same. But Valeria was different. She wore a long beige coat, boots, and had her hair neatly tied back. Her chin was higher than it used to be. Elias stood near the window with his hands in his pockets. "You look strong," he said. "I had no choice," Valeria replied. He pointed to the table, but she didn't sit. "Why did you ask me here?" she said. "Because I needed to say something I couldn't say last time." "Say what?" "That I was wrong. That's not enough," she said coldly. "I know." Elias's voice was steady. "She has your fire, but her eyes, they're mine." "That's terrifying," Valeria said, folding her arms. "Do you want to be her father?" she asked. "Or do you just want to ease your guilt?" The question cut deep. Elias swallowed. "I want to earn the right to be in her life, even if it takes years." Valeria walked to a bookshelf and stared at a picture she remembered seeing 2 years ago. A baby girl who wasn't hers. Now her own daughter's face was everywhere, in mirrors, in memories, in moments like this. "What's Livia's favorite color?" Elias asked. "It changes every week," Valeria said. "What's her bedtime song?" "I sing Billie Holiday to her." Can I learn everything about her?" Elias asked. This isn't a test, Valeria said sharply. There's no grade, only consequences. Elias sat on the couch's edge. I don't want forgiveness today. Good, Valeria said, because you're not getting it. He nodded slowly. Then just let me show up, quietly, until the day she doesn't see me as a stranger. Valeria reached into her purse and pulled out a folded paper. It was Livia's birth certificate. Elias's eyes widened when he saw his name typed on it. You put me on it, he whispered. I hated you when I filled it out, Valeria said honestly, but I refused to let her be fatherless because of my pain. You gave me that right, Elias whispered, voice shaking. No, Valeria said firmly, I gave her that truth. Tears burned Elias's eyes. Thank you. The city outside grew darker. Lights flickered in faraway towers. Valeria finally sat across from him. You can see her again, she said, but on my time, my terms. Anything you say, Elias whispered. Don't say that unless you mean it. I do, he said. I missed her entire beginning, Elias said quietly. I won't miss what comes next. Valeria looked at him for a long time. Then we'll start small. How small? You can pick her up from daycare on Friday. As she stood to leave, Elias followed her to the elevator. They didn't hug, but as the doors opened, he said softly, She has your mouth. That little pout she does when she's unsure. Valeria glanced at him. She got that from you. The doors closed. Elias leaned against the wall, smiling, not because he won, but because he finally showed up. When Valeria arrived the next week, Livia was with her. Elias opened the penthouse door, unsure if he should smile or stay calm. He had practiced many greetings, but none of them felt right. Valeria walked in first, with Livia right beside her, a small backpack on her shoulder. Same marble, same windows, Valeria said, looking around. It feels smaller. Or maybe you feel bigger, Elias replied. Maybe I do, Valeria said. Livia's mouth dropped open. Wow, Mama, it's shiny. Just don't touch the glass, Valeria warned playfully. Elias chuckled. She can touch anything she wants. Valeria didn't walk like a guest. She moved like someone who had grown stronger, someone who wasn't afraid anymore. She looked at the grand piano, the fireplace, and the art on the walls. I remember when this place felt like a palace, she said. Now it's just a fancy box with a view. It still feels like a palace to me, Elias said. That's because you never had to clean behind that sofa, she teased, pointing at a huge leather couch. You moved that? He asked, surprised. I lifted your whole empire, she said, one mop stroke at a time. Livia sat cross-legged on the rug, flipping through a book Elias had set out for her. Valeria took a sip of water while Elias knelt beside Livia. Do you like stories? He asked. Mama reads me one every night, Livia said. Can I read to you next time? She nodded. If you have snacks. Elias laughed softly. I think I can do that. Valeria watched them, her face calm but unreadable. You've changed, Elias said gently. I had to, Valeria said. Motherhood doesn't let you stay soft for long. Did you ever wish she wasn't mine? Elias asked. I wished you were someone else, Valeria admitted, but never that she wasn't yours. Now, I want you to be better for her. Elias brought a tray with juice boxes, apple slices, and peanut butter crackers. You made this? Valeria raised an eyebrow. I watched a video, Elias said. Livia giggled. You're funny. I want to be more than funny, Elias said softly. I want to be safe. Valeria looked at him for a long time. Elias walked her over to the glass wall overlooking the city. You used to stand here every night, she said, looking out, pretending I wasn't lonely. What about now? Elias asked. Now I don't have to pretend. I just want to be someone she can look up to, he said. And me? You're already there? Valeria asked. No, he said honestly. There was no heat in his words, no flirting, just truth. Same time next week? Elias asked as Valeria got Livia ready to leave. Don't be late, she said. I won't. He hugged Livia and she whispered, You're not scary anymore. His throat tightened. I'm glad, he whispered. Valeria watched them, and for the first time, she didn't look like she was waiting for an apology. She looked like a woman giving grace on her own terms. The next time, Valeria didn't bring Livia. Elias noticed right away. "She's with my cousin," Valeria said. "We need to talk without little ears listening." "Come in," Elias said softly. She didn't hesitate this time. She moved past him confidently. There was no wine, no food, no distractions. Elias sat on one end of the couch, Valeria on the other. The space between them felt heavy, not with distance, but with years of pain. "Why now?" Valeria asked. "Why what?" Elias asked. "Why are you doing this now? Why not when I told you I was pregnant?" Wait a second. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe and share your favorite part in the comments below. And don't forget to drop a heart to show your support. "Because I didn't know," Elias said, "and when I suspected, I was scared." "Of fatherhood?" Valeria asked. "Of you," Elias said honestly. "Of me?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Of how much I wanted you." "Of what it said about the man I thought I was," Elias said. "I always had control," Elias continued. "Meetings, numbers, outcomes. But with you, I didn't know how to hold anything still. So I let you go. I buried you under logic, and now I want you to see the man I became after losing you." Valeria studied him. He wasn't trying to charm her. He wasn't manipulating her. He was speaking honestly, with no armor. "You thought needing someone was a weakness," Valeria said. "I thought needing you made me weak," Elias said. "But now I know it makes me human." "When I was pregnant," Valeria said softly, "I'd look at Livia's ultrasound and wonder what she'd get from you." "What did she get?" Elias asked. "Your silence," Valeria said. "Your seriousness, the way she studies everything before she speaks." "And what did she get from you?" Elias asked. "The fire you couldn't put out," Valeria said. Elias took a shaky breath. "She's everything I should have fought for." "You can't rewrite the past," Valeria said, "but you can write the future." They stood together by the tall glass windows. Elias didn't look at the city. He looked at her reflection. "Do you think we could have worked out?" Elias asked quietly. "Not back then," Valeria said. "And now?" Elias asked. "I don't want promises," Valeria said. "I want presence." "I can do that," Elias said. "No speeches," she added. "Just showing up." He reached for her hand. She let him. Their fingers locked together, not with romance, but permission. "Needing you," Elias said softly, "doesn't make me less." "Needing you almost destroyed me," Valeria said. "Then let's learn to need each other," Elias whispered, "without fear." At the elevator, Elias walked her there, still holding her hand. "Tell Livia I miss her," he said. "You can tell her yourself tomorrow," Valeria said. The elevator opened. Valeria stepped inside. Just before the doors closed, she whispered, "This time, don't disappear." "Never again," Elias said, and for once he believed his own words. The penthouse glowed warmer that night, not because of lights, but because of intention. Elias had moved the dining table closer to the window. A single candle flickered in the middle. 2 plates sat ready, 1 bottle of wine, no staff, no distractions. Elias wore a charcoal button-down shirt, open at the collar, no tie, no act. Valeria arrived wearing a deep green velvet dress. It was off the shoulder, fitted, simple, but so beautiful that it made people stop and look. "You did all this?" she asked softly as she stepped inside, feeling nervous, like she had watched too many YouTube videos before coming over. "Yes," Elias said with a small smile. "I'm impressed," she said. "I just wanted you to sit across from me," Elias said quietly. "Not as the girl I let go before, but as the woman I never stopped remembering." They sat down to eat. At first, they were quiet. There was roasted lamb, vegetables, and a fig salad. Valeria noticed how carefully Elias had set everything. The plates were placed neatly, napkins folded perfectly. And the way he cut his food, it wasn't like a man on a normal date. It was like someone learning to be gentle. "You cooked this?" she asked. "I paid someone to teach me," Elias admitted. "Then I cooked it badly twice. This is attempt number 3. I think it's edible. I was hoping it would be unforgettable." Valeria smiled as she took a sip of her wine. "It's unforgettable," she said softly. After dinner, Elias stood. "You still play?" Valeria asked, looking at the big piano by the window. "Only when no one is watching," Elias said. "Play, she whispered. He hesitated but walked to the piano. He sat down and began playing a slow, simple tune. His fingers moved carefully, like he was shy but honest. That's beautiful, Valeria said as she stepped closer with her wineglass in hand. So are you, Elias replied. She turned toward the window, her cheeks warm. She gently put her hand on his shoulder. He looked up. Their eyes met. There was no act, no pretending, just a quiet moment of permission. Do you remember that night? Valeria asked. Every second, Elias said. What would you do differently? I wouldn't let you leave with only your shoes and your pride. Then show me, she whispered. He stood slowly, turning toward her. Their eyes stayed locked for a long time. Then he kissed her. Not quickly or hungrily like before, but slow and full, like he was memorizing the moment. His hands rested gently on her waist, her arms wrapped around his neck, pulling him closer. He didn't rush. His fingers found the hidden zipper on her dress. She turned, showing her back to him, and let him unzip it. The velvet slipped down her body softly, like trust falling away. She wore no bra. Elias leaned in, his lips brushing her shoulder, then following the line of her spine. She closed her eyes. He lifted her carefully and placed her on the edge of the grand piano. Their breathing became heavier, hands exploring gently. I need to remember all of you, he whispered. Then stop thinking, she whispered back, pulling him closer. He knelt between her legs, kissing her thighs, touching her with care. She gasped his name, her hands gripping his hair. When he stood again, she was shaking. He moved slowly, holding her hips as she wrapped her legs around him. The piano hummed behind her as they moved together. Then he carried her to the bed. There was no rush, just slow discovery. He kissed her softly, from her lips to her ankles. This time, she didn't whisper, "Don't leave," because she didn't feel like he would. They moved together carefully, their bodies speaking without words. Every sound, every touch felt like rewriting memories. Afterward, they lay tangled in silence. Her hand rested on his chest. His fingers traced her hair. I'm afraid, she whispered. Of what? He asked. That this is just a holiday illusion, she said. There are no illusions, Elias said. Only truth and timing. You were late, Valeria said softly. But I'm here now, Elias replied. The morning sun peeked through the tall windows of the penthouse. Valeria lay curled against Elias's chest, his hand tracing lazy circles on her back. They stayed still, breathing quietly. You stayed, Elias whispered. So did you, she answered. Neither of them spoke about the fact they hadn't used protection the night before. They weren't ready to talk about consequences yet. They were just grateful for being together. This version of Elias felt new. He wasn't running to his suit, pretending she hadn't been there. He held her gently, like she mattered. Even with her messy hair and guarded heart, she felt safe. What happens now? She asked softly. Now I show up again and again until you believe I'm not leaving, Elias said. Don't say it unless you mean it. I wouldn't have said it if I didn't mean it, he replied. Later, Valeria stood in the kitchen wearing his shirt, sleeves rolled up. Elias poured 2 mugs of coffee. You still take yours black? He asked. You remember? I've never forgotten anything about you, he said softly. She leaned on the counter with her mug. Last night was more than I expected. For me too, Elias said. We're not fixed, Elias. I'm not here to fix us. I'm here to build with you. I'm afraid, she admitted. Of what? That you'll leave the moment things get hard again, she said. And I'm afraid you'll never let me fully back in, he said. So, what do we do? She asked. We start small, Elias said. We parent Livia. We drink coffee. We don't make big promises. And if one day you want more, I'll already be here waiting. Later, they went back to bed, not because of desire, but because they wanted to be close. He kissed her shoulder. She rolled over and pressed her body to his. This time they moved even slower. No rush. Their eyes stayed locked. Her arms held him close. His hands held her gently. You feel safe, she whispered. Because I finally feel real, he whispered back. She gasped softly when she reached her peak, tears slipping from her eyes. Elias kissed her face, whispering, "I'll never disappear again." They lay in silence. "Do you ever wonder if we would have worked if we hadn't touched that first night?" she asked. "No." "Why?" "Because it wasn't the touch that ruined us. It was my silence." "So, what do you call this now?" she whispered. "Redemption, if you'll let it be." Valeria didn't answer, but she didn't move away either. That was enough. The city lights glowed softly outside the window. The room was dim. Elias finally asked the question he'd carried for 2 years. "Why didn't you tell me?" Valeria stood, pulling on her robe, walking to the window. Her silhouette was sharp against the skyline. "Because you didn't earn the right to know," she said. "You left me with a check and no explanation. I wasn't a woman to you. I was an inconvenience." "That's not true," Elias said, sitting up. "It was then," she said. "You stopped calling. You stopped showing up. That's what mattered." "I never stopped thinking about you," he said softly. "Thinking isn't the same as showing up for doctor's visits or buying formula or rocking a crying baby at 2 a.m., Valeria said. "You didn't know she existed because I didn't let you, and I don't regret that." Elias stayed quiet. No excuses, just a soft, "You're right." Valeria blinked, surprised. "I should have called. I should have knocked. I should have been brave," Elias whispered. "You should have stayed," she said. "I'll never get those years back," Elias said sadly. "No," she said, "but you can be here the years ahead." She sat on the edge of the bed. Her first word was mama. She didn't crawl until 10 months. She used to sleep with one hand in a fist. "Why?" Elias asked softly. "That's how I held her when she was tiny. She copied me," Valeria said. Elias's eyes filled with tears. "She already had your fight in her," Valeria said. "She had to," Valeria continued. "I worked 2 jobs." "Did you ever almost tell me?" Elias asked. "Once," she said, "when she had a fever of 103. I stood outside your building but couldn't ring the buzzer." "Why?" Elias whispered. "Because I didn't want you to pretend again. I didn't want pity." "I don't want pity either. I want responsibility," Elias said. "You want access?" "No, I want to be available." "There's a difference," Elias said softly. "She calls you the man from the gala," Valeria said. "I'd like to be more than that." "Then start by showing up for daycare pickups," she said. "Done," Elias replied. She leaned on him. "She's a miracle, Elias." "So are you," he said softly. She let out a laugh. "We're not that poetic." "We are tonight," he whispered. He didn't kiss her, and he just held her close, careful not to break something fragile. The next morning, Valeria woke up first. Elias was still asleep, his hand on her side like he was afraid to lose her. She stared at the ceiling, her mind spinning. At the kitchen table, they sat across from each other, coffee mugs between them. "You're different," she said. "I'm trying to be," Elias said. "Trying isn't enough if you're using the same old tools," she said. "What do you mean?" he asked. "Money," she said. "Don't try to buy your way back in." Just yesterday, Elias had asked his assistant to make a savings trust for Livia, planned private school tours, even thought of buying a safe SUV. He had wanted to surprise Valeria. Now her words felt like a splash of cold water. "I thought I was helping," he said quietly. "You were trying to ease your guilt. I don't want pity gifts," she said. "I'm trying to provide," Elias whispered. "I didn't raise her poor. I raised her proud. You want to help?" "Yes," Elias said quickly. "Then take her to school, learn her bedtime routine, wash her hair, pack her lunch, be there when she's sick. Can you do that without thinking it's beneath you?" "I was raised to believe providing meant paying," Elias admitted. "That's the problem. She doesn't need a sponsor. She needs a father," Valeria said. "Don't show me money. Show me consistency. Show her security." "I'll be there tomorrow for pickup," Elias said, "and every Wednesday lunch and the first Saturday every month for her library trip." "How do you know her schedule?" Valeria asked. "I asked her," he said, "and if I miss one, I'll explain it to her honestly." Her face softened. For once, she felt like she wasn't leading alone. "She likes cinnamon apples," Valeria said. "Don't slice them too thin." "Got it," Elias said. She's smart. Don't talk down to her, Valeria added. I know. She hums when she's tired. I heard it once. Made me emotional, Elias said softly. Welcome to parenthood, Valeria said. Elias grabbed his coat. Where are you going? She asked. To buy cinnamon apples and lunch containers, he said. You don't have to. I know. That's why I'm doing it, Elias said. She smiled. You're learning. I'm listening, he said. That night, snow covered the streets. Families laughed inside warm homes. Elias stood outside Valeria's apartment with a stuffed bear in one hand and nothing in the other. No ring, no speech. Just him. He looked up at the small brick building. It wasn't fancy, but it was alive. He walked up the steps slowly and knocked on her door. The door made a creaky sound after the third knock. It wasn't Valeria who opened it. It was Livia. She stood there in her soft pajamas with little candy canes on them. Her eyes were sleepy but wide, her curly hair was messy, and she had a little bit of syrup on her cheek. She looked up at him and asked, You came back? Elias bent down on one knee. Yeah, I did. Mama said you might not, Livia whispered. She was being careful. Livia tilted her head. Are you going to leave again? Elias held out a teddy bear. Only if you ask me to. She grabbed the bear and hugged it tightly. He's soft, she said. His name's Oliver. He likes pancakes. Me too, Elias said with a smile. Then Valeria stepped into the doorway behind Livia. Her eyes locked with Elias's right away. She wasn't wearing makeup. She wasn't pretending to be strong. She looked tired but real. You're early, she said. I didn't want to wait, Elias answered. You should have called. You would have said no. She narrowed her eyes. You're probably right. Elias stepped inside. No shiny floors, no glass walls, no tall city view. Instead, it smelled like cinnamon. There were mismatched mugs on the counter. A drawing of a snowman was on the fridge. Underneath it, in messy crayon letters, were the words, Mama and me. It was the most human, most real space Elias had ever entered. And it broke him, in the best way. Nice place, Elias said. It's small, Valeria replied. It's honest. She pointed for him to sit down. Livia jumped onto the couch with her teddy bear. She chewed on the sleeve of her pajamas while hugging Oliver. Elias drank orange juice from a plastic cup with a picture of a mermaid on it. So what do you two usually do today, he asked. Valeria raised one eyebrow. First, pancakes, then pajamas all day. She opens one gift every hour. It makes the fun last longer. Livia nodded proudly. I already opened my crayons. What time is the next gift? Elias asked. In 30 minutes. You can stay if you want, Livia said. Can I? Elias asked, looking at Valeria. Valeria paused, then nodded once. 1 hour. No big moves, no promises. Deal, Elias said. He sat cross-legged on the living room floor. Livia gave him the crayons. You color the hat, I'll do the boots. Deal. Valeria leaned in the doorway, sipping her coffee, watching them. She had seen Elias in tuxedos, in boardrooms, at fancy galas, but nothing was more surprising than seeing him hum quietly while coloring a snowman's scarf. This is nice, Elias said. Don't get used to it, Valeria replied. We're unpredictable here. I'll learn the rhythm. You're already off beat. I'm trying. I see that. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't give speeches. He didn't bring a big gift. He just colored, talked, and ate pancakes. When Livia spilled syrup, he cleaned it. When she wanted another drawing, he joined in. It was awkward. It was simple. It was beautiful. And it was exactly what Valeria needed to see. When Elias stood up to leave, Livia tugged on his coat. Can you come back tomorrow? Elias looked at Valeria. Depends on your mama. Valeria hesitated, then said 11, but bring your own crayons. Elias smiled. I'll bring snacks too. No nuts, no nuts. Got it. That night, Valeria sat on the edge of her bed. She watched Livia sleep. The little girl clutched her teddy close. Her hand held onto the red sweater like it was the answer to a question she hadn't asked yet. The visit had gone better than Valeria expected. Maybe too well. And that scared her. She wasn't afraid of Elias failing. She was afraid of Livia hoping and then losing him again. The next day, 11 a.m., no delays, Elias had promised. I'll be early. He arrived at 10:46 a.m., no flowers, no briefcase, no assistants. Just Elias, with a small tote bag filled with crayons, snacks, and juice boxes. Valeria opened the door, one eyebrow raised. You're really trying. I told you I would. And what if you get tired of trying? Then I'll try through the tired. Livia was sitting on the floor with markers, humming softly. Valeria poured coffee for her and Elias. You should know something, she said. Tell me. If you disappear again, there's no coming back. No more galas, no more doorways, no more second chances. Understood. Because it's not just about us anymore. It's about a little girl who now expects you to be part of her world. I know, Elias said. I'm not here for big shows. Good, I don't like big shows. Then I'll speak fluent quiet, Elias replied. He stared into his coffee for a moment. I know why I ran, he finally said. Valeria looked at him. Tell me. My father disappeared when I was 9. I used to sit by the window and count the days he stayed gone. Did he ever come back? Once, drunk, with a broken watch he said was mine. So you copied him. I became what I hated. You gonna stop the cycle now? I already did. No gifts unless they're real. No visits unless I ask. And no calling her my little girl yet. Good, Valeria said, sipping her coffee. You're doing better. I'm doing what I should have done from day one, Elias said. She sees it. Do you? Valeria didn't answer right away. I'm watching. Can Daddy come to the library? Livia asked suddenly. Time froze. Valeria looked at her daughter, then at Elias, then back at her daughter. You can ask him directly. Livia turned. Want to come? Wouldn't miss it, Elias said without even blinking. Valeria gave a small smile. Better wear comfortable shoes. They didn't hug. There was no music, just understanding. Valeria wasn't testing him anymore. She was watching. And Elias wasn't promising the world. He was choosing to stay. The smell of cinnamon filled the apartment. Livia danced in her pajamas, dragging her teddy bear behind her. She hummed loudly, even if it was off-key. Valeria flipped pancakes, her hair tied up. No lipstick, no defenses. Elias stood by the kitchen door, wearing an apron Livia made him wear. I look ridiculous, he said. You look involved, Valeria answered. Better or worse? Better, she smirked, flipping the pancake. They ate from mismatched plates. Livia poured way too much syrup. Elias almost burned his tongue on hot chocolate. It wasn't perfect, and that made it real. This is better than champagne brunch, Elias said. We don't do champagne, Valeria replied. We do sugar highs. Explains the dancing, Elias whispered. Livia spun in a circle. I'm a Christmas ballerina. She made that up, Valeria whispered. It's genius, Elias whispered back. Valeria handed Livia a small box. This one's from both of us. Inside was a gold necklace with a tiny heart-shaped locket. Inside the locket was one photo of Livia smiling and one photo of her holding Elias's hand at the gala. Can I wear it forever? Livia asked. Only if you want to, Valeria said softly. Livia threw her arms around Elias's neck. Thank you, Daddy. Elias froze, then hugged her back. Strong, certain, real. They watched cartoons together on the couch. Valeria's legs rested over Elias's lap. Livia colored in her new sketchbook between them. Every so often, Elias looked at them like he still couldn't believe this was real. This is the best gift I ever had, he whispered. Valeria looked at him. Which part? Being invited in. You knocked before, she said with a faint smile. This time you stayed. Are we a family now? Livia asked suddenly. Valeria froze. Elias didn't. We've always been, Elias said. We just had to find our way back. Livia giggled. Even if we don't have a fireplace? Especially then, Valeria said, brushing her daughter's curls. We have pancakes and warm socks. That's enough. Later, Valeria rested her head on Elias's shoulder. I didn't think you'd fit in here, she admitted. I didn't think I'd be welcome, Elias said. Turns out we were both wrong. Elias kissed the top of her head. Let's keep proving each other wrong. Snow fell quietly over New York. The brownstone felt different now. It was warm, lived in, alive. Livia ran through the hallway in a red sparkly dress, holding a paper star. Where's the top of the tree, Daddy? Up there, Elias said. But I thought we agreed on an angel. She's an angel and a star, Livia said proudly. That's called being resourceful, Valeria called from the kitchen. That's called being bossy, Elias teased. Livia laughed. Just like Mommy. Valeria hummed while stirring hot cider. Her hair was curled loosely. She was barefoot, comfortable, happy. You'll love the cinnamon toast, she said. You mean the one you always burn? Elias teased. It's tradition, she smiled. Then burn it. I'll eat every bite, Elias said, kissing her shoulder. The tree wasn't fancy. No expensive ornaments, just what Livia made at school and some they bought together from street vendors. Each one had a memory. This one's from the day Daddy helped me spell words, Livia said. And this one's when Mommy let me stay up till midnight. And this one, Valeria added, was the first one we picked together. Elias held a tiny ornament frame with a photo of the three of them at the skating rink. That night, after Livia fell asleep with glitter on her cheeks, Valeria and Elias stood in her doorway. She sleeps deeper now, Valeria whispered. She's not scared anymore. Neither am I, Elias said. He looked at Valeria. Are you happy? Valeria didn't answer right away. She just leaned into him. I'm healing, and I'm not doing it alone. The city glowed under the first snow of Christmas Day. Valeria stepped onto the balcony, wearing Elias's big coat. Her curls danced in the cold wind. Elias came beside her in a soft gray sweater. You always loved this view, she said. Not always, Elias replied. Only since I saw it with you. There were no fireworks, no champagne, no big show, just two people who were broken once, but now healing together. Valeria, Elias said, I won't promise perfection, but I'll promise presence. I don't want perfection. What do you want? Just this. You, Livia, and a slow Christmas deal. One more thing, Valeria said with a sly smile. No burning toast next year. I make no such promise. Elias laughed. Inside the tall building, the big clock said it was midnight. Outside, soft white snow started falling. It was the first snow of Christmas Day. The city was still awake. Yellow taxi cars drove through the streets like shiny golden lines. Snowflakes floated down quietly like gentle whispers from the sky. On the balcony of the penthouse, it was very still. Only breath and memories moved. Valeria stepped outside first. She wore Elias's big black coat. Her curly hair danced in the cold wind. She did not shiver. She just breathed. Behind her, Elias walked out. He wore a gray sweater. His sleeves were pushed up and his hands were bare. He held nothing but the night air. Valeria looked back at him. You always loved this view, she said. Not always, Elias answered softly, only since I saw it with you. There were no fireworks, no fancy drinks, no show, just two people who had once been broken but had found a way to heal together. Valeria tilted her head. You used to be scared of showing your heart. I was scared of not being good enough, Elias admitted. You never had to be enough, she whispered. You just had to be here. He looked at their hands. Slowly, carefully, he reached for hers. Their fingers touched. The touch felt fragile like a memory, but it was strong too. Then here's where I'll stay, Elias said. A question had been waiting for a long time. Valeria finally asked it. Her voice was calm. It did not beg. It only wanted to know. Back then, why didn't you fight for me? For us? Elias let out a long breath. His throat felt tight. Because I thought you'd be happier without me. I thought I was the storm. You weren't the storm, Elias, she said. You were the anchor. You just forgot. And you, Elias said, you were the peace I didn't know how to hold. The city lights sparkled below, but the brightest light was between them. Elias looked at Valeria with nothing to prove, only love to give. No more running, he said. His voice was steady. No more hiding behind pride, work, or fear. Valeria blinked. Do you mean that? I'm not asking for another chance, Elias whispered. Then what are you asking for? He stepped closer. I'm promising one. Their faces were close now. Not rushing, not afraid. It was like their first kiss, but different. A kiss made of memories, scars, and healing. Elias cupped Valeria's face in his hands. His thumbs brushed away the snow melting on her cheeks. "You don't owe me anything," he said, "but I want everything with you." And then, in the coldest night of the year, their lips touched. The kiss was warm, deep, and slow. It did not ask for more, because it already had everything. When they pulled apart, neither of them smiled, not because they weren't happy, but because they were very serious. "This doesn't need a priest," Valeria whispered. "Or a paper," Elias said. "Just a promise," she finished. "Yes," he nodded. "A promise." And together they said it. "We promise this on every broken moment behind us and every quiet morning ahead, to stay." They held each other. The big city of New York disappeared behind them. Only their vow remained. Later that night, Valeria opened the master bedroom door. She was not a guest anymore. She was home. She waited at the doorway. Elias came in behind her. Their hands brushed. He did not rush. He did not press her down on the bed. He only lifted her palm and kissed the center of it. She knew then that kiss was the vow. The sun rose slowly through white curtains. It was soft, not harsh, gentle, like a new beginning. Valeria woke first. She was wrapped in Elias's arms. His breathing was steady. His presence was strong and safe. There was no rush to get up, no need to explain anything. For the first time in years, there was nothing to run from and everything to stay for. Outside, in the courtyard, Livia's laughter filled the air. She ran through the snow in her red jacket, her white wool hat puffed up over her hair, her cheeks pink from the cold. She wasn't alone. Elias knelt beside her, rolling snow with his bare hands to build a snowman. "You're going to freeze," Valeria called from the window. "I'm already frozen," Elias shouted back, smiling. "By this tiny dictator," Livia giggled. "Add buttons, real ones. That's your job." "I just do the heavy lifting," Elias teased. She jumped on his back, and he let her win. Valeria watched from above, her heart squeezed with joy. She had dreamed of this scene many times, a father, not far away, not busy in a suit, but here in the snow, laughing, loving. And now it was real. Livia squealed as Elias tossed the snowball, but missed on purpose. "You throw like a girl," she teased. "Good thing girls are stronger." He caught her gently and spun her around. "You're mine," she said shyly. "All mine forever?" Elias knelt in the snow. "Forever and again." That afternoon, when they came inside, they took off their wet clothes and drank warm cocoa. Livia ran to her room and came back with a folded pink paper. "I forgot to give this to Santa," she said. "Let me see," Valeria smiled. Livia opened it. The letters were big and uneven. The words were full of hope. "Dear Santa, I know I should ask for toys, but I want a dad, not just a visitor. Not just someone mommy talks about. I want a dad who stays. And if you can't give me that, can you give mommy someone who won't leave? But if you are really magic, can you make my real daddy love me again? I miss the idea of him. Even if I don't know his smell or his laugh, just let him see me. Please. Love, Livia." Valeria covered her mouth. Elias's eyes filled with tears. Livia looked between them, worried. "Too much?" she asked. "No, baby," Elias said, pulling her into his arms. "Just enough." Later that night, Livia fell asleep with cartoons playing, wrapped in a fuzzy blanket. Elias sat on the edge of her bed. Valeria stood in the doorway. "She doesn't know what she gave me," Elias whispered. "She will," Valeria said. "No, she already feels it. That's enough." He looked up. "Am I really the father she deserves?" Valeria walked in and knelt beside him. "She doesn't need a perfect father. She needs one who is here. Present. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to stay." "But I messed up," he said. "So did I," Valeria whispered. "Then what now?" "We stop counting the days we lost," she said, "and start living the days we have found." The Christmas tree lights blinked softly. They sat together, Elias, Valeria, and Livia, on the floor near the fireplace. No phones, no screens, just laughter, silence, and presence. Livia rested her head on Elias's chest. "You smell like cookies," she mumbled. "I was going for rugged cologne," Elias teased. "Nope," Livia giggled. "Cookies." They all laughed. "I like cookie cologne," Valeria smiled. And in that moment, Elias, with his daughter in his arms and Valeria beside him, realized something. This was the life he thought he did not deserve. But here it was. This was home. It is never too late to become the person your child believes you are. If you believe love always finds its way back, say these words: I'm home. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed it, you'll love the next one. It's even more exciting and full of surprises. Share your story in the comments below. Maybe your story will be the next one I share.